Natalie, hi.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Ilze Be.
You're very welcome. I am so glad that you had the time to have this conversation, and let's just get straight into the points. We
Mm,
are here to talk about public speaking. Natalie, you are an expert in public speaking. You have taught at college levels, university levels, and I have met you through public speaking. Tell me what you are particularly good at in this very broad topic, public speaking.
Thank you so much. Yeah, a little bit about my background. Like you mentioned, I taught public speaking at some community colleges and universities out in Colorado, also here in North Carolina when I was getting my master's. And it wasn't something I thought I was going to end up doing. I was sort of thrown into teaching this. I thought I was going to be a teaching assistant, meaning assisting someone. And then when I got to grad school, they said, "No, go do it. It's all you." And I had to sort of learn as I was teaching. So it was a very interesting experience doing that from sort of a way where I was getting my master's, but I wasn't a master in it yet, and yet I was teaching it. And I think doing is what really taught me the most. I learned as I went along. I made many, many mistakes, just like we all do in any sort of career that we're starting out in. And I learned from those and I tried to apply them. One of the things that I always say is every single person has something they're good at when it comes to public speaking. And for some of us, that's literally just getting up there and not getting ill.
Yes.
And then for others, maybe it's cutting out those verbal fillers they've been working to get rid of, or slowing down their speech a little bit, which is something I'm going to try and do during this podcast today, because I tend to be a quick speaker. I think one of the things that I really developed and honed was the organizational elements of speaking. There are certain things that are needed in order to speak for the listener and not just for yourself as the writer of the speech. Because we're not writing an essay, we're putting together something that's for ears, meaning people only get one chance to hear it, unless, of course, it's recorded. Like in today's time, we have a lot more of that. But usually, those people in the audience, they get that vibe, that feeling, that face-to-face experience of being at a live speaking engagement once. And really thinking about that. How have you organized it, not for yourself, but for your audience? And that's one of the things that I really tried to hone. And if nothing else, hoped that my students would leave with, so that even if they went to a biology class and had to give a speech, they would be able to do it in a way that was useful and meaningful for their peers.
That's right. And I was asking this question to hear what you would say about yourself because I have a different perception about you. And not that I'm going to say that you are not a great organizer of your speeches, you really are. But what I am always at awe when I hear you is your impromptu speaking.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, your skills are hard to match. And I am trying to justify my inability to match your skills by not being a native speaker of English, but I know that it is not true. I know that in my own native language, I would not be able to do all the things that you do impromptu speaking. And I know that it must be from how you grew up or all the experiences that you have had in your life. So,
Hmm.
would you mind sharing about your
Yeah.
first life experiences and how little Natalie grew up and what all she
Yeah.
saw and what influenced her?
I was able at a very young age to have my creativity reinforced and celebrated. And my mother was one of those that influenced that in me. I also have to thank PBS and all of the shows that I was able to watch growing up, from Sesame Street to Mr. Rogers to Bob and his Happy Clouds. I loved painting and all of those things. I was very creative and I was encouraged to do so and entertain myself. I
Mm.
remember going to my mother at one point and saying, "I'm bored. I want you to play with me." And she said, if you're bored, you just need to think harder of something fun to do. And luckily for her, I was not one that came up with crazy things that would have gotten me in trouble. Instead, I was able to go outside and maybe I'd make a pile of, to me, it was a beautiful garland for summer's eve, but it was really just a bunch of wildflowers and weeds picked in a pile. But I remember there's two stories I remember about the creativity and how it challenged me a little bit in getting good marks even in kindergarten. We were given nursery rhymes that we were supposed to memorize and recite. And as a public speaking teacher, I completely see why now. As a 5-year-old, I thought I could make these rhymes just a little bit better. And that there were parts of them that made no sense to me. So I would go off on my own little tangents. And the teacher would say, no, no, you have to skip to the script and stick to the script. And I came home and I was pretty upset one day. And my mom said, okay, here's what we're going to do. You're going to learn how to say it the way your teacher wants you to. And then when you come home, I want you to present to me and your dad and your little sister what you wanted to say. And so she worked really well with me to sometimes we have to draw within the lines. That's what's expected of us. And that's okay. It has its place. There's a
Yeah.
learning purpose behind it. But then also it's okay to break out of those lines a little bit. And then I remember in second grade, we were having parent teacher night. And my mother came over to the school and I warned her ahead of time. I said, Mom, do not be upset if you don't see any of my artwork on the walls. And she said, why, Natalie? Your artwork is always so good. That was one of my favorite things to do was draw, paint, color, anything along those lines. And I said, well, it's because it doesn't match the other creations. So if we were tasked with making owls out of cotton balls, we were given a pattern. And that's what the teacher wanted us to do, was to mimic the pattern.
Mhm.
And my owl did not look like other owls. It did not match the aesthetic that was being sought after by the teacher. So my artwork never made it onto the wall. And so afterwards, my mom came home and she said, "Okay, I get that you wanted to create your own owl, and I love that. When you're in school, why don't you make the owl the way your teacher wants you to so you can be proud that it's on the wall outside?" Because I was sad that it didn't make the wall. And then when you come home with it, you can make it however you want. So that's what I did. So by Christmas time, my snowman made it onto the wall. And then I came home and I started pulling off cotton balls and getting out the glue stick and recreating it in my own crazy little way. And I think that being able to entertain myself,
Mhm.
to have encouragement, to draw inside the lines when necessary, but it's okay to,
Right.
in your own time as well, to get out of those, that my imagination was able to really grow. And when it comes to the impromptu speaking, I'm best at the ones that are silly, Ilze. When you
Yeah.
give me a really serious topic, it does take me a minute. But if I'm able to just go into my dream world, my daydreaming world, and pull out these different ideas and notions, then I'm definitely in my place. I'm in my zone. When I get a really difficult one, maybe something political, controversial, I have to think a little bit harder because that's within the lines.
Right. And I'm just listening. And again, I am a little envious or jealous, so to say, because you had that. And I'm thinking back about my own childhood. And my mother also, I think she also encouraged my creativity. And I also
Mhm.
learned painting. As you know, we both do some
Yes.
arts and crafts. But I was, my memory maybe was so good, and I always memorized those rhymes and everything. We had two
Mm.
folk songs in Latvian. I was down to every word. I recited word by word, and I never wanted to or tried to change
Oh,
anything. And, and as you know, with these impromptu speeches, I get blocked when I have to speak something weird that you are really good at. I am better with deeper topics.
yes.
So,
And whenever you do one, I'm always so inspired. I'm like, oh, wow, she just pulled that emotion out of nowhere.
all
And
right.
that's one thing that I've gained from Toastmasters is I could grow in breaking out of the structure. I almost forced myself into this organizational box when it comes to public speaking. Oh, I need research, I need this, I need that. And I have been so inspired by some of our members, including yourself, who simply tell a story. They simply tell a story about their life, a memory, and there's not necessarily some here's the preview, here's the main points, here are my citations, here's the conclusion, but it still feels organized, it still feels purposeful, and that's a form of narrative speaking that I have been trying to grow. And that's what I'm hoping I'll be able to show that I broke out of the box I put myself in a little bit with some of my even planned speeches today for you because they do flow a little bit more like a narrative and less like a structured speech.
Absolutely. And I was just saying this so that you get prepared that I'm going to challenge
Get
you.
ready. I'll get ready for that impromptu speech.
But you're absolutely right. I agree that that structure is probably better for more formal or educational, informative speeches where where you want your audience to remember something and learn something maybe from you. But I like the narratives and I like storytelling because, and not tell the audience what you are going to tell them because of the surprise element.
Yeah.
I
Let them
want to
discover it with
lead,
you.
yeah, I want to lead them to where they don't know where I'm
Mhm.
going with it. And then there's that surprise. It's the same topic about impromptu speaking. I have been creating this podcast, and at the beginning, I mostly did scripted speaking because I did
Hmm.
solo episodes, and it was because I wanted to get back into speaking to the public in general
Yeah.
after the trauma that I experienced. And
Mhm.
I was not ready to jump back on videos. And I thought I would create a podcast just for my voice to start with. And I was not even able to just speak off the cuff. So I scripted my videos. And I also wanted to share the knowledge and that I had accumulated as I
Mhm.
was working through that trauma. And I thought that people could benefit from that and also just work on myself. And now I feel that I have been too scripted. And
Oh.
I think that the most authentic and unscripted
Mhm.
people are the most successful.
Hmm.
And it's a completely different thing from what we do at Toastmasters. I'm
Mhm.
not saying about impromptu. And in a way, I'm thinking that maybe what we are doing in Toastmasters is outdated.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts?
I think it could be, and I think that could be a challenge as to why we are struggling to recruit younger members from this younger demographic. It's a really great point. I never really thought of before, Ilze. And if we could find a way to integrate that into Toastmasters and realize there's a role for that. It's almost like social media took this really weird spin. At first it was, curate on MySpace, curate your songs and, add your top 10 friends and all of this stuff. And then it was Facebook and it was, which pictures do I put out that look the best? And I mean, even before this, I said, Ilse, am I going to be on camera? Because I haven't put my face on yet.
Yeah,
Working from home today. And she's, yes. So I go and throw my eyes on and put some lipstick on and brush the hair. And, if
yeah,
you'd seen me an hour and a half ago, I looked
yeah,
like Adam Sandler sitting in a chair. Like,
yeah,
I didn't have anything on that matched or anything along those lines. So it's almost it's like a deep breath for them maybe to be able to have this as an outlet where they're just like, this is who I am, especially in a world that is so noisy now. It's
yeah,
so noisy with social media to
yeah.
just, this is who I am, take it or leave it.
Yeah, but see, Natalie, probably I will share with you something that will be new for you.
Okay.
TikTok now allows up to 1 hour video.
What? Yeah, that's new.
Yes,
I
it's
thought it
not,
was
yeah,
real. I
it's
had no
not,
idea.
it's not short form anymore. And
Oh,
the
interesting.
and it's really depends on what you put in the search. That's
Mm-hmm.
what you see. So if you try to, which I was doing, I was trying to see what the algorithm would feed to me
Mm-hmm.
based on how I search. And it's interesting how it changes depending on what search words and what videos I click on.
Yeah.
And for before I started doing that, for whatever reason, I kept seeing people who shared about their schizophrenia.
Hmm.
There are several people who openly just
Yeah.
sit there. Sometimes for a while they are silent until questions come in, and then they answer those questions. And I was thinking,
Hmm.
this is really, really good because previously people would never admit that they have mental
Mhm.
illness of that sort. And now they allow just to not to say normalize, but it is a condition that some people really struggle with,
Mhm.
and that's not their fault.
Yeah. It takes the
And
stigma out of a lot of things. And maybe that's part of it
yeah,
too, is being able to connect with those around the world that share experiences and challenges that you have or that we have. Like I know that you and I kind of connected through you shared some of your trauma, I've shared some of mine in Toastmasters. It was very cathartic, but also being able to reduce that stigma of, hey, I'm a normal person. I do have this mental illness, unfortunately, but here's how I handle it. And now you brought that up, and I learned something recently about schizophrenia is that some people actually have emotional support dogs, but they are trained to help someone who is suffering from visual illusions
mhm,
and hallucinations know that they are seeing something that's not there, and
yeah,
that they can check in with this dog who will say, kind of be like, no, it's just you and me, there is no one there, and then they're able to move on with their life and not get quite so stuck in on the hallucinations that they suffer from. And I didn't realize that was even an option, but also sharing and connecting with those around the world that we would have never had the opportunity to do so without social media and the internet.
yeah. And for some people, it's not even it's a skill to get maybe to get to do it to begin with.
Yeah.
And what I have learned just from what I shared with you, that you can, like, I was able to speak, and then suddenly something happens, and then I can't speak. I
Yeah.
still spoke in our club because that was an environment that I was used to and I felt comfortable in. But sometimes there's something, an underlying cause, and often there's trauma that people don't even realize that that's blocking them. And I like what you said, that with those small baby steps and
Hmm.
being kind to that human being that's going through
Yeah.
something, you can get them to actually accomplish that. Natalie, maybe we can transition into one of your speeches.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you have two speeches, you told me. I have heard one of them. I call it a signature speech. I have heard that speech several times. I think at
I think I've done it
least
at least two or three times to try and, once
I
again, it was that practice, the evolution of breaking it outside of a structured speech
right.
to something that's more narrative
Yes.
and doesn't necessarily have an introduction and a conclusion, though I think I still tried to, I still think I still do that. I might need another evolution of it.
And speaking of talking about this
Mhm.
speech, how would you like to present it? Would you like to do this in a TikTok style where
Hmm.
you go off the cuff and just talk about what happened?
I
Or
think I could
would you
do that
like
for
to
this one.
present in a way how you have prepared it for an audience and maybe read it, which is not the easiest
Hmm.
thing.
No, that's not easy. It's not easy to do that either.
It is not, no. Yeah.
I think that for this particular go around, I'm gonna try and read it, and then we'll see. Maybe I'm able to pull myself away from it midway through. But I know that the flow of it and the organization of it is one of the things that kind of helps me get to the end without getting too tied up into my own emotions, if that makes sense. But
Yes.
that's one of the things that I'm working on, right? Is being able to give a speech that's emotional and realize that's an okay thing to do. Yeah. This is about my first experience with death. This is about my first experience with death. I was very lucky to have all four of my grandparents, all the way through 22 years old. This is my first experience with death, and it's the death of a child, so I do want to give that trigger warning out there. However, it's also about life in many ways. So bear with me as I attempt not to just read it to you.
All right, Natalie, take it away.
Thank you so much. Who are you? Are you a mother? Are you a friend? Are you a partner, a lover, a son, a brother? How we define ourselves changes from decade to decade, from month to month, even from minute to minute. Because our lives take us in different directions and down unexpected paths where we're always negotiating our personal identity. That's the point, isn't it? To grow. Through these personal identities, we realize that they're formed quite often by who we have relationships with and who we don't. When we enter into a new relationship or a relationship ends, this directly alters our own identity. The death of a loved one or the birth of a new family member are examples of times in which the seed of our own life narratives are planted within the lives of significant others. Our relationships shape us, mold us, crush us, build us up, break us down, but in the end, they always transform us. Adding the constant evolution to our own answer of who am I? Who are you? That's the question I'd like to ask. So the telling of a few stories, of a few memories from my life, I want to share with you when my self-concept irrevocably changed because of family relationships. These stories may seem disconnected, but they meld together to make who I am today. Memory 1, late August 2021. My sister, curled up, fetal position, brushed the strawberry blonde curls from her eyes, damp. Linoleum floor, hard, where we rest, waiting. Stark walls, colorless, bare, cold. Chemical smell, the hospital. We are alone, two children in the corner, left to comfort each other. There's no place for kids in the room, despite the one in the bed. The adults, they linger in the hall outside, his room. The doctor, I don't see his face. He is a non-person to me, simply an entity that exists, but not part of my world, in this corner with my sister. White coat, green scrubs, indistinguishable from the sea of green, blue, gray, and white swimming the halls. I can't hear what they say, but I know. I can see it. It is written on their faces. My mother, my grandfather, my aunt. I can't hear what he's saying, but I know. There is no change. There is no chance. There is no awakening for Griffin. My aunt's only son, our family's joy. 5 months of life was not enough. But is there ever enough, really? The adults don't know that we're watching, learning the news along with them. I'm only a child to them. I am unseen. I am numb. I am scared. I am alone. I am surrounded. I am falling. I am sitting. I am not crying. It's just shock. Memory 2. Next May. Spring. Cool air, dogwoods, breath, birth, life. The what ifs abound. They say his name now, finally, Griffin. It is not memories discussed, but what ifs instead. What if little league? What if prom? What if he'd gone to college? What if? What if? What if? I hate what ifs. What is the point of a what if? What if she's ready for another baby? July, summer, hot. Stifling, sticky, buzz, buzz of mosquitoes, scent of honeysuckle in the Piedmont. The what ifs are over and the verdict is in. Infertile, barren, no viable eggs, blunt doctors. So what now? What now? That's what they're asking. What now? Griffin was hers. She can carry, but she can't produce. What now? An egg donor? An adoption? The adults don't know what I do. I know the answer. Will they take me seriously? I have grown up a lot. Do they see that? I jump. The words pour from my mouth without my permission. What now? I say. I will donate the eggs. Utter silence. Silence. Did you know silence has a sound? Then sound. So much sound. Everyone speaking at once. A cacophony of voices. Arguments. Of course. Too young. The health risks. Thank you. Too young. Crazy idea. You don't know what you're doing. You will regret it later. Too young. But what we do now is actually my choice. Next year, July 2003. A birthday. Two, actually. Linoleum floor, hard ground, where we rest, waiting. Cheerful, bright colors on the wall, laughter, smiles, the good kind of crying. The smell is of soft hair, new skin, and baby formula. Twins. Two boys. My first cousins. Mine? Lucas Griffin, larger than his petite brother, a tuft of dark hair, like his older brother had. He looks like my aunt. John Milton, paler than his twin, smaller, a full head of blonde hair, just like me. Blue eyes. End of memories. I have never given birth, yet, according to science and biology, I am the mother of two. The death of my aunt's son Griffin altered who I was. The birth of her sons, Lucas and John, also changed my idea of self. When I was younger, I used to ask myself these questions. What relation am I to them? What will the long-term effect be on them, on me? Does it matter? Today, as the boys approach their 23rd birthday, I label my relationship with them somewhere between siblings and nephews. In truth, I'm neither of those socially constructed identities to the boys. That's what we call them in my family, the boys. I am their first cousin and their biological mother. However, I have come to realize I can mold my relationship as much as they mold me. Who I am right now may not be who they need me to be in the future. All I know is the boys don't need me to be a mother. They've already got one, and that's my aunt. I still have 7 frozen embryos waiting to know who they will be. And I've recently learned that I need to make a decision by the end of this year on what will happen. Will I attempt to have a child at 42? Or maybe more than one child? Will I donate the embryos to science or to another couple who's unable to have their own? Right now, my plan is to donate them to other women who can't conceive on their own. Maybe I'll keep one for myself just in case who I am today changes tomorrow. Thank you.
Oof, I had chills. I had little had chills because I had heard it and also knew what was coming. Goosebumps. Thank you for
Thank you
sharing.
for giving me a platform to share this with the
Thank
world a
you.
little bit, Ilze.
Thank you for sharing. So, of course, I believe my audience would understand how important was it to structure this speech this way.
Mhm.
because if shared just in a conversation, I don't think it would be as impactful as it is when you listen to it this way. So I'm glad that you chose to read it.
Thank you. It also, I realized I spent so much time unpacking those memories and trying to say, okay, what does my 16, 17-year-old self remember? And a lot of it was just the senses. And
Yeah.
then as and then more thoughts came into it after that initial shock, and then finding myself and my own voice to say, what I'm here. That's what I feel like this is my role right now. And being able to have adults listen to me as an 18-year-old. There was a whole process behind it. It wasn't like I just walked into a doctor's office and was like, willy-nilly, I want to give my eggs. They made me go through counseling. I had to sign documents. I had to take a psych eval. It was a solid 6 month process before we even started any medical portion of it.
Oh, really? Mhm.
Hmm.
What a brave young woman you were at that time.
I know. Sometimes I wonder where she went.
Yeah. So you concluded with a question to what to do with those embryos. And those
Mhm.
are embryos, not eggs,
They are
frozen.
embryos, yes, because so my aunt's husband, who was the father of Griffin, the child that passed away, is also the father of the two boys. So it was easier to do it that way than to they needed to be inseminated before they were
I
put back
understand, yeah.
into my aunt. Yeah. So we didn't save any eggs that were unfertilized
Mm.
that I had extracted.
So that is like, as a woman to woman, that is probably a tough choice right now because you know the
Yeah.
father.
Yeah. I know the father, and to put it bluntly, I don't know that I'm comfortable with that.
Hmm.
I also know that at my age and just where life has taken me, I may not have the opportunity to have my own children one day. I haven't had a fertility test in quite a while, but by the way things are going, I'm definitely entering perimenopause, I think, at least perimenopause. And, when your cycles start to change and just you start to have these, you realize, especially as a woman, I think when you've done this every month, that
Yeah.
when things are shifting,
Hmm.
and that does put a little spark into me, but at the same time, I'm not necessarily devastated by the idea of not having children. I think that I've never been one of those, I was never one of those girls growing up that knew what I wanted my wedding to look like or knew what my kids' names were going to be or any of that. I was, like I said, I was in daydream world. I was playing in the grass, and I was running through the fields, and I was creating other things.
Hmm.
And then when I was divorced in 2015, I realized that if I was going to have a child, most likely it would be on my own, and
Hmm.
that I didn't want to have, because I've had friends my age who got together with someone very quickly, almost for the
Hmm.
purpose of having a child, and then now that person who did not end up being a very pleasant partner is
Yeah.
forever in that child's life as well as.
Yes.
And for me, if I were to go move forward, I think as long as I have viable eggs, I think I would just do a sperm donor.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get to
Hmm.
with my question. First of all, I'm so grateful that you are speaking about these issues because I speak about these women problems and not just problems, but just the way we are,
Hmm.
topics that not many people discuss openly. And yeah, about entering perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, and how that changes our bodies, our brains, and just a lot of things, and how our physiology influences our lives,
Yeah.
our businesses, and our relationships. We are biological beings.
Yeah.
Yes. What I wanted to like mention, just an interesting observation or the fact. You probably don't know, there are very famous Russian people who fled
Hmm.
Russia because they are against what's going on.
Oh.
There is a very, very famous singer, Alla Pugacheva, and she has a husband who is much, much younger, and he's a very famous stand-up artist, and he travels the world and gives performances
Hmm.
always sold out. Tickets are three, four figure. Uh,
Oh, wow.
yes,
Okay.
yes. So,
So I
so
won't be catching a show, but maybe I'll watch it watch it online.
what I wanted to mention is that when they got married, it's an interesting marriage, and people might be critical, but I really like those people for many reasons, but also because of how bold they are and how they show that relationships can be different and lives can be different. They got together, and of course, if you have 25, 30 age difference. I don't remember exact age of the man, but I know that the female, the singer, is currently, I think, 76.
Oh, wow.
And they have twins who
Mm.
are 11 years old. And they
Wow.
are, I'm not sure if she had her eggs frozen. I know that they were born with the help of surrogate mother.
Ah, yeah. Hmm.
But they are definitely his kids and they look like them both. It's
Oh,
interesting.
beautiful.
But what, yeah, it's wonderful that
Mhm.
they can live for those children and raise those children with that very warm relationship. And you can imagine that I probably there's no that sexual intimacy between them at
Mhm.
this point. But who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares if they are together with this understanding? This is how we are going to live, and we are going to devote our lives to to the children, but
Mhm.
also how he treats her. She says, I'm old, and she has all kinds of aches and pains, but he just takes care of her,
Mhm.
understanding that that's her age and she's going
Mhm.
through difficult stages. She has some autoimmune also condition.
Oh, no. Mm.
So that's really beautiful. And I was thinking if I was younger and I had an opportunity to freeze my eggs, maybe I
Yeah.
would have, even though I have children. But there are so many things that you can do nowadays and especially break those stereotypes of
Hmm.
how we need to live and what relationship should look like.
Yeah. I think that's well put. And also, it's interesting to me because that's been going on the flip side for centuries. I mean,
Hmm.
child brides, kings who would marry barely out of their adolescence women and provide them with heirs and all of this, and to know that it's not necessarily okay, but the stigma of a woman finding someone that cares for her and loves her for who she is and she loves them back despite age. I think it's becoming more common, and of course I
Hmm.
think that's beautiful. I think any love is beautiful. Love is beautiful.
Yeah.
And how many people I'm wondering what the comment section said. I'm sure there were some trolls out there.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
everyone always has
definitely.
an opinion on what you should be doing with your own life and in your own bedroom, but
Yeah.
and with your own children. But I think that's a story of resiliency and love and knowing that, yeah, maybe she won't be there for the rest of the children's lives, but no parent is.
Yes.
Isn't that the
Yeah.
goal? I mean, no parent wants to go through what my aunt went through,
Hmm.
right? So the idea is that you will not be there when they're older. And but the father will still be there, it sounds like,
Yeah.
and raise them and give them a loving home no matter how long she's around. And that's just the reality of the world, whether you choose to do it that way or life makes it that way for you.
Yeah. And yeah, of course, you're right that people there were trolls and there were people who criticized them. And
Mhm.
she was already very, very rich and famous at the time when he was just a rising star. And probably there was some financial considerations on both
Yeah.
sides, but he built his own career and
Mhm.
he's so talented. he learns languages so quickly, and he
Oh,
can
wow.
speak to whatever country he goes. He
Uh-huh.
learns that language and he can speak that
That's
language.
amazing.
He is amazing. Yes.
Wow, that's amazing.
So, yes. Anyway, talking about these bold topics or
Mhm.
issues, you have another speech which I haven't heard, but I was intrigued when you told me the topic and the title, and you
Yes.
even sent me a script, but I didn't read it because I wanted to enjoy
Okay.
listening to you giving that presentation. How
Yeah.
are you going to go about this? Are you going to read it too?
I'm going to read this one as well, and the reason is because it's the second time I've ever presented it
Hmm.
outside of my own brain and on my computer. This came about in 2020, February of 2020. So right before the world drastically changed for everyone in the world. And I think that it was a beautiful experience for me even before the pandemic because it was almost another coming of age for me. I was 34 at the time, not young. I was 4 years out of my divorce. I had been with my then husband from 18 years old to
Mm.
30 years old. And that's a long period of time. That is a time where you are developing your sense of self. You are developing who am I in this world. And to go from never having lived alone, living at home, to then having a roommate, to then living with him, to then being on my own was extreme. Additionally, part of the evolution and sort of the Natalie got her groove back is embracing my sexuality, which I was able to do because of a group of amazing women at Naropa University in Colorado, Boulder, Colorado. I joined the Vagina Monologues.
Mhm.
And I don't know, are you familiar with that,
Oh,
Ilze?
yeah, yeah.
Vagina
Hmm.
Monologues? Oh,
Yes.
wonderful. Okay.
Mhm.
And for anyone who isn't, you need to go to a show or get the book, read it yourself. It's uplifting, it's traumatic, it's all of the things in between, and it's
Mhm.
all stories of women and their vaginas,
Yeah.
be it a positive experience or unfortunately, a traumatic one. And so I wanted to one do a few things I'd never done before, which was take my public speaking skills and do something scripted and perform. I'd never been on the stage, well, since fifth grade, something along those lines when I was in a little play.
Mhm.
And I wanted to do that. And then I also really was feeling like I didn't have, like I'd lost a sense of female community. I did lose quite a few friends in the divorce. If anyone's ever been
Yeah.
through a divorce or a big breakup with a long-term partner, then they know how that goes. The
Mhm.
tens tend to pick a side, whether they know both sides, whatever it may be. And no hard feelings towards anyone. In fact, I've actually had some beautiful conversations with some friends later on in life when we realized, okay, we were pretty young. We were early 30s when this happened, and now we realize we can be friends. It's okay.
Mhm.
And even though I haven't spoken with my ex-husband since 6 months after our divorce, he actually said he never wanted to speak to me again, and I respected that. It was very hard for me because I thought we were going to be friends, but it wasn't. I grew a lot because I didn't have that contact and because I was on my own and I had to create my own community from scratch. And Boulder ended up being just the most beautiful, perfect place to do it. And I found this group of women, all different ages. Some of them were undergrads there, some of them were postgraduates, but I was definitely on the older end. I think there was one woman who was older than me. She was in her 40s. And being able to learn from these beautiful, strong-willed 20-something-year-olds that it's okay for
Yeah.
me as a not so bodily perfect 34-year-old to have sexuality, to be sexual, and to be proud of my sexuality.
Oh, I love that.
And to be able to even say that, Elsie, like if you were to ask like 20-year-old Natalie to say those words out loud, she'd be like, "Oh no." I mean, I was raised in the South,
Hmm.
and there's and I'm not going to say much more because it's in the this is more of sort of a little poem for me, I think is the way I would put this. And I did present it the first and only time, other than to those women, of course, at a open mic night where we were doing fundraising for the Vagina Monologues. And a lot of women told their stories, and this was mine. And I am excited and terrified to share it with you right now.
I can't wait. I can't
Okay.
wait. So, yes, whenever you are ready.
My Selfish Vagina by Natalie Jones. I'm exploring my vagina and my bubble bath, playing down there because it's such a curious place. A 5-year-old's wonder while exploring their own body with lavender bubbles and my Ninja Turtle toys floating around me. What are you doing? Don't touch yourself there, Granny explains as she slaps my hands away from myself. Ladies don't do that. A southern upbringing teaches to say, no, sir, yes, ma'am. I assist in the building of my own cage. A marriage, because that's what is expected. Then my cage is reinforced by him. Plaster and mortar put there to block out my view of anything other than him. Totally his own, to control, to train. I can't even see myself. Sex. It's perfunctory. It's all about him. Brief, roll over. I like it that way. No, this way. I know the routine, the script of our love making. So why doesn't it feel good? Why don't I like it? There must be something wrong with me. Why else would I struggle to find pleasure with my husband? I should figure this out. On a leap, I buy a vibrator. I'm 29 years old, and it is the first time I have thought about touching myself since I was in that bathtub. I buy a vibrator with cash so my husband won't know. I feel so much shame, but my curiosity and my desire to feel pleasure wins out this time. I have my first orgasm at 29 years old downstairs on the couch as my husband sleeps upstairs. Wow. I mean, wow. Literally, wow. Oh, now I know what all the fucking fuss is about. I am so excited to introduce my new best friend to my husband. Hell no, he says. I don't need any battery operated competition. I feel embarrassed, guilty, and then, over time, angry. So my vagina gets selfish. We spend time together, me and my vagina, behind my husband's back. We realize how much we deserve and how little we receive. With him, sex isn't about us, and I begin to see the cracks in my own cage. The place I'd helped build. Orgasms. Oh, I break them down. I break those walls down with orgasms. I begin to feel the earth move. I smell the damp grass again. I hear the birds. I taste the snow. I touch myself without shame. I don't need him to receive pleasure. What a fucking epiphany. Thoughts rumble through my cage. My framing shudders. My fastenings of mortar crack wide open. I see light now. I begin to push his boundaries and rules. Why are you being so selfish? You need help, he says. Not us, but you. I shatter the walls in him. I speak the words to him which set me free. Crazy, can't be, he yells. How can I choose me over us? I listen to my heartbeat, racing, wild, adrenaline, freedom. I accept the pain in order to potentially experience joy. Divorce. Now a beautiful word to me. I raise my worth without his permission. I am finally selfish enough to love myself. I step into the storm, I ride the winds, I embrace the rain, and watch the lashing tree limbs of this new life that's terrifying. I see my feather flit in the gusts with rays of sun breaking through, and I follow its sounds. Terrifically terrified. May I always be so selfish. Thank you.
Oh, wow. We need more speeches like this, Natalie. Thank you
Do you
for,
think it's too much for our little group?
for maybe for the little group, but not for the world.
Not for the world.
Not
Perfect.
for the world. Yeah, we need more like those. Oh, loved it. And
Mm, I'm
and
shaking.
yeah, and thank you for, and it's weird that I am going to say it, for your courage. Why would
Hmm.
why would it need to take courage to share stories like that? But it does take courage. And I
Yeah.
completely understand. And it's so sad.
Hmm.
And I know that there would still be women who would maybe condemn you for giving this.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. I
Yeah.
think so. And I mean, just from getting a divorce, I mean, there's so many different socially constructed morals and guidelines out there of what it's supposed to be, but those are what kept me where I was. Those were what were making me unhappy. And I don't think there's anything wrong. And I've realized this. It's taken me a long time, Ilse. And it was through those beautiful women and doing the vagina monologues and discovering myself and that I could be alone and still be a fulfilled person that sexuality doesn't have to be your whole personality, but it is a part of you.
Hmm.
And there is nothing wrong with wanting to be loved in the way intimately that you think you deserve. And there are certainly, I think, in the South and in certain very, very devout religious communities that that's not so. It's not about the woman, and what I just said was complete blasphemy.
Yeah.
However, for me, it wasn't. It was when I became free. And in some ways, I am now, this version of myself, my 41-year-old self, is ashamed that it took me so long to realize that it was okay to have an orgasm
Yeah.
and to even try, to even
Mhm.
like say what I wanted, to be able to say what I wanted with my husband in those intimate moments was not allowed. So I finally had to find out myself because I'd never explored it because it was
Yeah.
wrong to explore it, right? It was wrong. It was
Yeah.
shameful. And just realizing I was 29 years old.
Yeah, and exactly. I was thinking, yeah, you were 29 years old, and sadly, there are women who have never experienced
Yeah.
that. And what was I going to say?
And you don't know, quite literally, that one where it's like, wow, you don't know what you're missing until you literally know what you're missing. And I thought that I had had orgasms. I really did. I thought, oh, well, that must have been one, that little bit, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
No, like, and there's a release in it that's, I think, important for mental health as well.
Oh,
To
yeah,
be,
definitely.
I
Hmm.
mean, if in our world we're so okay with the male orgasm and the male sexuality, which we are, I feel like all of the thing, a lot of the things out there were originally created for men by men, right?
Yeah.
Pornography, all of the different things. Um, the idea of what a wife should be versus a lover and vice versa. That if we could just embrace that for women, I think we'd have a lot of happier couples out there.
Yeah, true. Or a lot of happier single women. And
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Exactly.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting. It's interesting about sexuality. It's not just about women in general, about,
Right.
talking about these things, but also you are entering that age, but about older women.
Mm-hmm.
There's also stigma around sexuality in older women. I have also mentioned it in one of my podcast episodes about Jennifer Lopez, where I saw
Hmm.
little snippets of her performance on the stage
Hmm.
where she was acting as if she had sexual acts or something like
Uh-huh.
that. Then there was a long line of critical
Oh, I'm
comments
sure.
below because of her age. They say, go home, grandma."
Mhm.
But Jennifer Lopez, she's not my favorite artist whatsoever, by no means. But just because she did that
Mhm.
and started that conversation, why does there need to be a line where a woman stops being sexual? I
Yeah.
am what I'm advocating in my podcast as well is to how to maintain your health so that you can have that sexuality as long as possible.
Mhm.
And of course, I talk about diet and about supplements, including
And I've
hormone.
learned a lot from you about that just in the what you've given us in Toastmasters.
Yeah, about hormonal therapy. That there's a lot of misinformation, but I'm all pro if we can make our bodies feel like we are in our 30s instead of our
Yeah.
50s and beyond. Then we need to educate us about, these development in science that people have achieved and maybe not be critical and
Yeah.
maybe, you know,
Well,
then
and I think that that we're in that evolution of change for that. I
mm,
mean, when you just look a little bit at history, for instance, going back to that story you told about the Russian couple and
mm,
how just seeing an older woman with a younger male and having children, that was not unheard of if it was the reverse, right? And
absolutely. Yeah.
the first this is a little pop, a little American pop trivia, so I don't know if it'll apply to you as much. But the first guy who played James Bond, he actually
Mm,
quit playing James Bond because he was 50 and all of his co-stars were still 20. And he said, I have granddaughters this age. It doesn't feel right. And
mm,
yet that is not anything that we blink at in Hollywood. And yet when you have someone like Jennifer Lopez and then Shakira as well was I think
yeah.
a part of that. And they
Yeah.
were shaking, they looked good. They're doing just what women are supposed to do, right? They're staying perky and beautiful through 50s and 60s, and yet they're still doing something wrong.
Find full episode 32 of She Became CEO here on my YouTube channel or on any popular podcast platform.